Toby gets a point for speaking as the whistle went. And it's now back to Joe's. Oh no, sorry, no. Oh no, of course, sorry. Pardon me. Television writer must treat him gently.
I want that fiver back.
Toby, you get to start. I'd like you to talk about vampires versus werewolves. Vampires versus werewolves, starting now.
Vampires versus werewolves is a tale as old as time. As from the moment that there has been supernatural creatures, then there has been an antipathy and a conflict between vampires and werewolves. Who has the upper hand, who is the most powerful?
China?
I may have been a little bit forward about coming forward here, but I think there was a deviation from grammar. I think my esteemed colleague agreed a plural subject with a singular verb has. Which, you're the only writer on this panel who cares about grammar.
No, you're right, that's just annoying. It wasn't enough of a deviation from the English language, I think, to allow it. Toby gets a point for an incorrect challenge.
You just want work on television.
You can't interrupt me.
No, I can. I'm just wondering where our booze was that we ordered before we got on the stage.
Yeah, good question. There is a deviation from Jack Daniels.
This being SFX, I'll have some along, I'm sure. Toby, you have 45 seconds on the subject of vampires versus werewolves, starting now.
Vampires and werewolves have incredibly different skill sets. One might argue that werewolves are, in a way, more powerful at a specific time of the month when they are turned into huge, raging, ravenous creatures, whereas vampires are much more of a kind of flat line in terms of power, though obviously during daylight they are significant. What?
Oh, Sarah?
Repetition of power.
Oh, yes, indeed.
Oh, you've changed.
In the green room, we were like, oh, Jesus Christ,
Yeah.
you can't do.
Point to Sarah for a correct interruption, and you have 24 seconds on the subject of vampires versus werewolves, starting now.
Vampires versus werewolves is a subject that interests me not at all, because I am not a great fan of either vampires or werewolves, because I don't believe that either really exist. Although some men that I have lived with have said that I have turned into a complete bitch for 3 days of a month and saved me.
There was some hesitation on the word bitch, which surprises me.
There was indeed. Joe gets a point for a correct challenge, and 5 seconds on the subject of vampires versus werewolves. We're still with that. 5 seconds starting now.
It's interesting that we should be approaching the topic of vampires versus werewolves, because just earlier...
China?
It's not that interesting. I mean, I always say straw poll. I would say it's moderately interesting at best. So.
I'm beginning to see why Nicholas Parsons is like that. Yes, that was an incorrect challenge, therefore Joe gets a point for an incorrect challenge. I remember how this game works. And has 1 second remaining, starting now.
I was speaking of urban fantasy.
Stop! So Joe once again gets a point for speaking as the whistle went. Now, I'll be giving the panel each a title to talk on in this round from science fiction and fantasy. So I'd like Joe to begin with, could you talk for a minute without hesitation, deviation or repetition on Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? Starting now.
Next question. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep was a novella, if I correctly remember the word limit applied by the Hugo Award Association, published by the writer Philip K. Dick. One of his first roles. It's interesting, in fact, because that particular white-haired actor never really amounted to as much as people might have hoped that he...
China.
See, I even gave him more time, and it wasn't very interesting. So, I mean, if you're going to make these grandiose claims about interestingness, you've got to back it up. So I'm going to say deviation from interest.
Yeah, no. Points to Joe for an incorrect challenge. You can make up your own rules, we don't have to follow them. Joe has...
It's called rigor, my friend, it's called rigor.
20 26 seconds on
You're the only writer who cares about rigour on this panel.
26 seconds on the subject of Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, starting now.
I have often wondered whether androids actually do dream of electric sheep. It is without doubt an esoteric title, and one like a souffle in a cupboard. It all came apart so fast, it was going so well.
Sarah got in there, and you get...
Just let me have like 2 seconds left to repeat the title of the subject.
You have 15 seconds, which is too long, I think, to repeat this title. 15 seconds starting now.
Do androids dream of electric sheep? Well, actually they do. I had a deep heart-to-heart with one quite recently who said yes, that was the case, and are my 15 seconds done yet? I'm staring into a void. They've talked about this film as much as they can. Look, Howard should have done better.
Stop! Oh. Do you think that he hit his buzzer before? Well, they seem conflicted.
There was a yes, it was a definite yes. I heard a yes. Just shout again, yes or no? That's a yes. That's definitely yes.
It's not Panto
It's still on. It's still on.
It's still on. Okay. I think he didn't get in time there. So, a point to Sarah for speaking as the whistle went.
It's a fix.
That was a mix. It was a mercy.
Like the David Gemmell Legend Awards, it's a fix.
It was a mercy killing. That was like the King's speech. It was Anyway. China. What's over there?
No, sorry, hoping for the drinks. Focused. I'm in my Zen place.
China. I'd like you to speak for 1 minute without hesitation, deviation or repetition on the subject of Beyond Lies the Wub. Beyond Lies the Wub. It's a Philip K. Dick novel.
Thank you.
They were going,
I knew.
Sorry. I thought my geek credentials were being, questioned. I was very defensive.
Starting now.
Clearly, in this room, we are on a Dick theme, from more than one direction, as it happens. But Beyond Lies the Wub is the title given to a relatively recently, when you look out at time from the enormous stretch of years as I do, collection...
Joe.
Hypocrisy. You previously accused me of being uninteresting.
If we gave points for hypocrisy, we'd never stop. I think that's an incorrect challenge under the rules, so China gets a point, and 44 seconds of wobbliness remain, starting now.
A collection of short stories, indeed the entirety of the oeuvre of Philip K. Dick in, as I recall, 5 volumes, the first of which was given the title of one of the stories therein, Beyond Lies the Wub. I don't actually know that I have read this particular specimen, which I know, shocking, right? Seriously. But we all have lacunae, and I ask you, my brethren and sistren, my tribe, my companions, my camarades in nerdery, can any of us here look out and say, I have read every single classic in this field? Can any...
Joe?
Well, that's a repetition of read.
Indeed it was.
I was having a kind of bit of a moment.
And actually, I thought deviation as well for a long time.
I expect that talking to him, though.
So, that's a correct challenge, so a point to Joe, and 5 seconds remain on the subject of Beyond Lies the Wub, starting now.
Beyond Lies the Wub, I must confess, is a book that I have not read, but my brethren...
Stop! Repetition on the subject of Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said. Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said, which is a Philip K. Dick novel. Flow My Tears, the Policeman Said, start now. Sarah.
Oh dear God.
I saw Toby first. Actually, I had a hand over my eyes.
Tears, Paul Cornell said to me, as my tears were... What? How? What? Am I not looking at them? What?
Toby's successfully interrupted now. We're there now.
Oh dear God, I was just starting.
Toby, you get a point for a correct challenge, and 58 seconds on the subject of Flow My Tears, the policeman said. Starting now.
Flow my tears, the policeman said. Who here can say they haven't read that book? Clearly,
Sarah,
Sorry, that was an accident.
what's the nature of your challenge? Okay, so that's a point to Toby for the incorrect challenge.
I don't make the rules.
They are quite good fiddle value, I have to say. I mean, they are good.
More alcohol.
Toby had enough alcohol, that's not the problem.
Toby, you have 51 seconds on the subject of Flow My Tears, the policeman said, starting now.
Who here can say that... No. Repetition. Pick the bones out of that one.
His light definitely went on first.
You can't challenge yourself, therefore he's still going. Joe.
Insufferable. Entirely insufferable behaviour.
Okay, Joe, that's an incorrect challenge, so Toby gets another point, and he's still going. This is still Toby's minute. He is still going. Time is ticking away.
Philip K. Dick is obviously an incredibly well-known and prolific writer of science fiction, fantasy, genre stuff.
I saw Joe first.
Hesitation.
Yes, it was.
Thank you.
41 seconds, Joe. Flow My Tears, starting now.
Flow My Tears, the policeman said, appears to be proof that Paul Cornell is obsessed by the works of Philip K. Dick. I could not honestly tell you a single thing about this book, except I would expect it features some kind of hallucinogenic subplot. The author was rather prone to those kind of distractions, those rambling asides, featuring Class A drugs, if you will. I do believe that he was rather partial to a tipple.
Sarah, just first.
Acid isn't a Class A drug.
Actually, that's a successful challenge because he deviated from the truth. Sarah?
I think acid is a Class A drug. I believe it is.
I believe it is
That
not.
doesn't make that work.
If only there was some interconnected network of computers with the answer to everything.
That I said, that...
I didn't think I'd be asking this today. Does anybody know if acid is a Class A drug? It's a Class B,
It's a
though.
Class B drug.
So,
It can be A or B.
well,
She was talking about B. So
I was talking about the cheap version they sell around my way.
okay, Sarah gets a point for a correct challenge, and
Do I get my topic back now that I'm paying attention?
you get 12 seconds on the subject of Flow My Tears. I can't believe we're still in this. Starting now.
Flow My Tears, the policeman said, is clearly something I have not read. However, when I was caught taking Class B acid, the policeman did say, you're going to cry when your parents hear about this. And I said, please, officer, no, don't arrest me.
Stop.